I am Steve Rohde, chair of this wonderful group. I want to dedicate today's meeting to Rita Lowenthal. Rita is 94 years old today. We celebrate Rita and her brilliance and activism, a former board member and an extraordinary woman. So let's send out emanations of love and support for Rita. I'm going to briefly devote my reflection to the 1619 project. Many of you are aware that in August of 2019, on the 400th anniversary, if you will, of the arrival of enslaved people in Virginia, the New York Times did a major release of a series of essays. And this is an extraordinary project. I'm highlighting it today in hopes that you will go online and see the essays. The inventor or creator of this program is an extraordinary journalist named Nicole Hannah-Jones. The program has now created curriculum for schools. It is an amazing effort to really remind America of the legacy of slavery, Jim Crow, down to this day. The project has been viciously attacked from the right. They are so well funded. They have produced at least 2 full books attacking the 1619 project, seeking, this is a crowd that talks about the cancel culture a lot, and that what they want to do is cancel the true American history. But they can't, because you could open the newspaper. This is Wednesday's New York Times, which points out the stark disparities in unemployment as a result of the pandemic. It's going to be hard for you to see this. It's really more of an exemplar, but those deep lines, the longest lines to the bottom, are a reflection that the loss of employment has been 24% among Hispanic women, 18% among Black women, 19% among Asian women, and then drastic but lesser numbers among Black men, Hispanic men, and Asian men. Nothing like the smaller losses by white men and even white women. So this legacy has not gone away. We have not reached the colorblind society that Chief Justice Roberts celebrates when cutting back on voting rights. So I encourage you to find the essay. I also encourage you to go back to Ta-Nehisi Coates' extraordinary Atlantic magazine cover story from June of 2014 on the case for reparations. All of this talk today is meant to elevate H.R. 40 in the House, which is the reparations bill to establish a commission. Let me just briefly quote a few passages from the 1619 project. It was in August of 1619, just 12 years after the English settled Jamestown, 1 year before the Puritans landed at Plymouth Rock, and some 157 years before the English colonists even decided they wanted to form their own country, that Jamestown colonists brought 20 to 30 enslaved Africans from English. They bought them from English pirates. The slave trade expanded, and the point of her essay is that Black Americans have believed in the ideals of this country, even though in so many respects those ideals were lies. They believe fervently in the American creed. Through centuries of Black resistance and protest, they've helped the country live up to its founding ideals, and not only for themselves, but that Black rights struggles paved the way for other rights struggles, including women's and gay rights and immigrants and disability rights. You cannot erase or forget the nature of chattel slavery, in which generations of Black people were born into and passed their enslaved status on to their children. Enslaved people were not recognized as human beings, but as property to be mortgaged, traded, bought, sold, used as collateral, given as a gift, and disposed of violently. Enslaved people could not marry. They were barred from learning to read and restricted from meeting privately in groups. In most courts, they had no legal standing. Enslavers could rape or murder their property without legal consequence. And enslaved people could own nothing. And it's in owning nothing and in not being compensated that the wealth gap in this nation began and has been perpetuated down to this very day, as we see the exaggeration of the worst in society during this pandemic. But there was a period immediately after the Civil War, the Reconstruction period in 1865 to 1877, when former enslaved people zealously engaged in the democratic process. They formed the Equal Rights League, one of the nation's first human rights organizations, to fight discrimination and organize voters. They elected Black leaders in the South, and Hiram Revels of Mississippi as the first Black man to be elected to the Senate. But the white supremacist society would have none of this. If they lost the opportunity to have legal slavery, they would impose it otherwise through Jim Crow laws, turning back Reconstruction. And Reconstruction faced fierce white resistance throughout the South, including unthinkable violence against formerly enslaved peoples, wide-scale voter repression, election fraud, real election fraud, and in extreme cases, the overthrow of democratically elected biracial governments in this country. And this story goes on and on. I'm going to wrap it up for the sake of time and being able to turn to our wonderful speakers today. But I truly encourage you to pay attention to the 1619 Project, pay attention to the efforts of the right to suppress this history, even at the time that we most need to learn it, and to recognize that programs like the one we're going to have on March 21st, the effort of reformist prosecutors and Black Lives Matter to advance this cause and turn back the tragic legacy of slavery, is current, immediate, and urgent business that we have to attend to. Thanks very much, everyone.